Welcome to Career Coffee Chat Live, special edition. I'm your host, CoachEUrban. I'm a certified executive coach and career accelerator. And what I do is I help driven, experienced professionals and leaders accelerate and elevate their careers by removing roadblocks to help you achieve more influence, impact, and income. And speaking of income, we'll be talking about how to get you more income today on the Career Coffee Chat live and show and podcast. So if you're just tuning in, please say hi, say your name, say where you're from. I'd love to welcome you to the show. If you've never seen my smiling face before, you can find more about me at CoachEUrban.com. I'm a certified and a host of different things I won't bore you with today. What I do want to pour into your willing minds and ears is all about how to negotiate your salary, whether you are in transition looking for that great new job or whether you are currently employed and want to get paid more money. You might be asking yourself, should I even try to negotiate right now? I mean, it's a really challenging socioeconomic climate out there. Not sure I should even bother. Well, I have really good news for you. In fact, you should bother. And there's a really good reason why. I'll be going over some top strategies, 7 of them to be exact, how to help you savvily and successfully negotiate your salary and have a better experience. Take the stress out. I mean, it's a little stressful. We're probably worried, if I negotiate, will they drop me altogether? No, they won't do that. So I'd love to see your smiling face. Please say hi when you pop on. Say where you're from. Say, what questions do you have? In fact, I love, this is your time just as much as me talking to you. I want to know what's on your mind. What's going on? So hello out there from Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I'm really excited to talk to you about how to savvily negotiate your salary, and let's talk about those top tactics. Now, if you've never ever listened to the Career Coffee Chat podcast, I highly recommend you do that. Not only is it on all the channels, including Amazon and Google and my YouTube channel as well. So all of those reside on my YouTube channel, as well as I have a nifty, keen LinkedIn company page for my Career Coffee Chat podcast. That is a host for not only the live videos, but as well as a podcast and pretty much anything else I feel like putting on there that I think will add value to your career growth journey. So if you have questions about salary negotiation, something that happened to you, please pop it in the comments. I will be happy to answer your questions as they come up, because this is all about helping you elevate your career. So talking about elevating, how can we negotiate our salary and take the stress out and still have a successful experience? Well, number one, I want you to understand that not everybody negotiates their salary like they should be. And the reason you should is because a survey has found that only 37% of people actually negotiate their salary. What the heck? And for those people who do, they're able to actually increase their salary by 7%. Now, if you'd like to learn more about these statistics and more about this information in written form, I also have this exact talk and blog on my Career Growth series on my blog. So I started that Career Growth series back in December, and it is everything from A to Z to grow and elevate your career. So please feel free to subscribe on my website right here. You'll get some great free resources, and of course you will be the first to know when I publish more blogs bi-weekly about how to elevate your career. So everybody needs to negotiate their salary, but not that many people do. In fact, we found that less than 40% of people right now are negotiating their salary. And some of that is because few of us are like, oh, I don't know if I know what to negotiate my salary because it's a scary world out there and the economic situation isn't great. What if, they say no? Well, they're welcome to say no. That doesn't mean you won't get a job. But it's most important to negotiate your salary, because you want to be able to get that pay that you deserve, doggone it, you work hard. So, number one, when it comes to successfully negotiating your salary is knowing how to understand and articulate your value. This is extremely important. Number one, we have to provide solid evidence that you deserve the best and why. And what I recommend is knowing and being very comfortable with your contributions, and develop what I call an impact inventory. Or if you're a project-focused individual, you might want to call it a project addendum. The gist of it is you're developing a document that lives with you throughout the rest of your professional career that helps you articulate your professional contributions. Now, what is an impact inventory or a project addendum, and how do you create one? Well, what I would recommend that you do is you start with your most current position first, and then work your way back over time to your earlier positions. And I would wrap it up around the year 2000. Don't bother to go back any further than that. And good luck if you can remember back that far. Let me know if you actually do have a cognizant memory back to the year 2000. It seems forever ago. And yeah, it really is. And you will find when you start working on this impact inventory or project addendum that it is tough to remember those details. So this is a good reason why you want to keep as many of those succinct details as you can about the type of project works that you did, things that you've improved, implemented, and contributions that you made throughout your career. Basically, this is a repository for all the kudos, all the great things that you've done. Now, if you are thinking, well, it's not like I improved the revenue. Okay, well, maybe you avoided risk. Just because you're not improving revenue or didn't get more business doesn't mean that what you're doing doesn't have value. So even if you're scratching your head and going, well, I just did a good job. I don't know. Well, doing a good job matters. Just think what would happen if you didn't do a good job. For example, my husband, who's a reliability engineer, he is the guru of all things subsea. And of course, if he didn't do a good job, there would be a really big problem. Yeah, several multi-billion dollars worth of problems. So what he does is extremely important. Now, it may not be thrilling with running models for hours and hours and hours, and is also really important work. So develop that impact inventory and become very familiar with your career contributions and comfortable discussing the fact that, yes, you do indeed have impact and you do matter. Now, I recommend that you grab a copy of my my impact inventory guide. I'm trying to find my mouse right now. There it is. So I hope you grab a copy of my impact inventory guide, and you can grab a copy of my career pathfinder right at this link. And of course, the link up here on the screen, you can grab a copy of the guide. It's totally free, and it's the exact same guide I leverage with all of my clients during our coaching work together to develop their contributions and flesh out their stories so they can shine not only in their job search, but also when they want to elevate their careers. So what's top tip number 2? Well, top tip number 2 is, there it is, research your salary range. Know the expected range for their geographical location. There's a really good reason why I mentioned geographical location here and why you want to know that. Right now, we're mostly in a remote work environment with a few people actually coming into the office as absolutely needed. Moving forward into the future of work, remote work is here to stay. Yes. It doesn't take a wild leap of imagination for people to figure out that they can save money by not having people come into the office. So if you have a role that doesn't have to come into the office, chances are you probably won't. And some companies will be going to a blended model, which means you might come into the office a couple of days a month or a couple of days a week at most. What that means for most individuals, particularly those people who do not have to come into an office at all, it widens the opportunities of types of roles you can search for. Right now, before people catch on, let's just say you live in Kansas, you're looking for a remote work position for a company in California. They may actually pay you close to California wages. So cash in on this while you can before people figure it out. Now, some smart companies may already have, but it doesn't hurt to try and be cognizant of the geographical location of the office that you'll be reporting to before you start to negotiate your salary. The same thing goes for those of you who are contractors or want to become entrepreneurs working for companies. If you're working for a company in New York, the wages or the amount that you're putting on your proposal for a company in Texas, well, you need to probably add some more dollars and zeros and commas and decimal points, whatnot to that proposal for different geographical locations. So we need to be relevant to where we're going to be connected to for our job. Now, also consider your years of expertise and your abilities, credentials, education, etc. If you have all the credentials and you checked all the boxes plus some, that comes with a price tag. Your expertise is worth something. I'm sure we've all heard the story of the gentleman who came down and knocked on the engine with a hammer and suddenly it started. And he charged him $1 million. He said, "What do you mean $1 million for knocking on the engine with a hammer?" He said, "Well, you couldn't figure it out. And what it is, it's $1 for the hammer tap and $99,999,000 for my expertise." So it's really your expertise that matters. What you're bringing to the table has value. So please let me know if that is confusing to you, if you have any questions about this so far. And stay away early on when you're talking to recruiters from exact figures. And this is the biggest question I get. What do I say when a recruiter calls me and asks me about what my salary expectations are? I recommend that first you get more understanding about the job before you give them any range at all, because it's very difficult to give a range, throw something out there when you have no idea what the job is all about. So even though they won't like it, you'll say, "Well, happy to give you a range once I know more about the position," and insist upon that, because some will just say, "Well, just tell me what you make now." Well, what I make now may be totally irrelevant to this particular role. So I really do need to know more about it. Is it 80% travel? Does it require me to learn a different language? I mean, what's going on? So you need to know more about the role before you can give them any sort of figures. So early on, I recommend a range. $5,000, $10,000 range, depending on the level of pay, is great. So start with a range early on. Now later on, that will change. In fact, pretty quickly. Here's a top tip for those of you who are thinking, "Oh man, I don't know if I want to negotiate my salary. I just don't feel comfortable with that. I really just need a job." Okay, well, a recent survey was done and said that 36% of managers said they would be more willing to negotiate right now, it's current, and 50% said that they would be just as willing to negotiate a salary. Don't let the current socioeconomic situation hold you back. You definitely need to negotiate your salary. And later on in the negotiation process, you want to have an exact figure. So when you're actually in the later on negotiation process, they've given you a job offer, you're negotiating the salary and benefits, you want to have an exact uncommon figure. And by the way, this also applies for when you're asking for a raise. When you're asking for a raise, you want to have an exact uncommon figure. Studies have shown that hiring managers will be less likely to haggle if you say $134,750 versus $135. All right. They'll think that you've done your research when you have an exact uncommon figure. So it's just a top tip to keep in the back of your brain for when you are negotiating. Instead of a round figure, come up with an exact uncommon figure, even if you are thinking about going for a raise or whether it's a new job. And if you use a range at this stage, you definitely need to be comfortable with the lowest figure. So I recommend you go higher than you actually expect to receive at first, because the whole point of negotiation is to come to a mutually agreeable point. Now, you don't want to go wildly higher, like $100,000 higher. That might offend somebody, but reasonably higher. So aim high at first, and then they can feel like they've gotten something out of the deal while you get something out of the deal. Maybe you negotiate more paid time off. You can't get that later on, I can tell you that right now. So let me know if you have any questions, or if there's an experience that you've had that has not been so fantastic that you feel reluctant to negotiate, because I'll be happy to talk to you about that and what might be going on. Pick your time wisely. So if you're thinking about negotiating a salary increase or a raise and while you're gainfully employed, do not bring up this right before someone goes on vacation or leave of any type. Not a good time. Also, don't mention it on Mondays. Typically, people are a little bit grumpier on Mondays, so it's not a good time to bring up, "Oh, hey, by the way, I want more money. Thanks." And please do start talking well in advance of your review. Don't wait until the performance review to go, "Oh, I think I deserve a raise." Start having that conversation well in advance with backup information from your impact inventory or project addendum. And know your manager's best times of the day. Most people have a better time of the day. Usually it's in the morning and they're more alert after a couple cups of coffee. I wouldn't hit them first thing when they walk in the door. Oh, I haven't had coffee yet. But yeah, so know their best times of the day when they're in the best mood, they're most productive, and have the conversation then. Also be very aware. Engage your EI or EQ. If you know that something's going on in your manager's life or something's happening, reschedule. Don't have the conversation when you know something emotionally negative is going on, because that will impact your results. And do ask before weekend. Thursdays or Fridays are great, and they're more willing to cut to the chase because they're looking forward to a great weekend, hopefully. And just, again, be aware of the emotional situation going on. Now, stay centered, calm, and confident. Body language is a huge factor in negotiation. In fact, it's probably one of the biggest components of negotiation. And people who are very good at negotiation will tell you that when you have a good centered presence and you feel calm and centered, that it comes across much better than someone who doesn't know, they look unsure or they look nervous or upset. None of that goes over well. So you want to have that calm, centered presence and show up 100% if you're meeting online. Be aware of the lighting, your background. Are things put together? You're not wearing your PJs on top or what have you. So, put the dog out or make your significant other go to the grocery store before you get on the meeting. Whatever that looks like for you, just clear the space, clear your mind, calm yourself down. I also recommend that you don't worry and ruminate, about what's going on right up to the last minute. If you are preparing any notes for the conversation, do that well in advance. Give yourself some time to breathe and just let it go. Let it leave your mind. Because if you're a preparer or a planner, and you know who you are, I recommend that you do that in advance of the conversation and then come to that negotiation conversation clear of mind without prepping to the last minute, because that increases your cortisol level and your stress response, and it shuts down our ability to be cognitively agile. In fact, we're not agile at all when we're in a fight or flight mode. We can't really think very well. We only are thinking about physical activity, which is not very helpful. So take care of you, clear your mind, clear your space, show up 100%, and stay positive and appear pleasant. Okay, that's very important. For those of you who identify with being more reserved and you're not necessarily as emotive and all in your face as I tend to be on the camera, that's okay. Articulate. If you're not a person that has a lot of emotion or vocal variety, articulate how you feel. Oh, I'm really happy to be here today and talk to you about this. Articulate how you feel. That's okay too. It's important that you close the gap and clear assumptions and give them the data they need to be able to process where you are in mind and body so they can align more strongly with you and what you'll be talking about. And also take the emotion and the stress out. Speaking of stress, it's critical to reduce that cortisol level, like I mentioned before, because if it's high, you can't think. And for those of you who've been in an interview and totally blanked, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The same process, by the way, applies in an interview situation. You definitely want to take the stress out. So whether you're going for an interview or a negotiation situation for your salary raise or what have you, you don't want to prep until the last minute. Give yourself some space to breathe. Do some light exercise, meditation, breath work, what have you. Mindfulness, doesn't matter. You need to clear this and give yourself some time so you can show up present, clear and calm and centered. Don't obsess about the information until the last moment, and remain calm even as discussion's not going as you would like. Be very aware of your facial expressions. No scowling or looking disappointed. So just be pleasantly neutral. If things are not going as you would like, say, well, I understand. Ask questions. Be clear on what's going on. Don't just get all upset and go, well, they said no. And, okay, well, they may have said no, but there might be some reasons. Ask. I understand what you're saying. I'd like to learn a little bit more, or that's interesting. Why do you feel that way, etc. So if they're citing some sort of performance issue as reason why you don't deserve a raise, we'll definitely get more clarification about what's going on and why. And I want to highly encourage you to grab my work style alignment guide, because what this does is allows you to spot not only your own work style and communication style, listening style, but other people's work styles, communication styles, and listening styles. And why we want to do that is because we want to know who we're dealing with and how to approach them and what to say. So by knowing the other individual's style, we're better able to align with them and have more influence over the situation or conversation. So I highly recommend grabbing this. It is also completely free. So I would love for you to have a copy. And don't ignore the perks. They matter. It's very difficult to get more paid time off when you are already employed. Good luck with that. And for those of you who aren't really good at looking at the fine print, look at the fine print. You definitely want to review the terms of work, conditions, and what's going on before you accept that offer. Know what are your benefits? What's the paid time off? Do they also account holidays in your PTO? That sucks, and it's a common practice that a lot of organizations do. That will eat into your actual overall. So, oh yes, you have 3 weeks, and over half of it's Easter, New Year's, Christmas. No. You, the experienced professional, should be negotiating your paid time off just as strongly as your actual salary, in fact. So if you don't do that, now's a great time to start. Just because you're starting a new job does not mean you need to start over. A long time ago, I actually had a young lady tell me, well, 2 weeks is our standard for new hires. I was like, well, I'm sorry, but I didn't say I'm sorry. I said, well, that's fine. And I'm an experienced professional, and I am accustomed to 3 weeks. I'll be carrying that in, or we will not be having a conversation. So you're an experienced professional and you have multiple weeks of vacation, and be aware of the language they use. I highly recommend negotiating those benefits and those vacations. Sometimes the benefits is a little bit difficult to negotiate, but sometimes you can get bonuses and the like. However, be wary of empty promises, and you will get them from time to time. Oh, well, we know this is our entry level right now because it's tough economic times, and we're going to get you more money later. Yeah, can I have that in writing? If it's not in writing, it's not going to happen. So make sure it is all in writing. If you have any promises, they want to give you any bennies later, empty promises unless it's in writing. And speaking of what's in writing, keep your files in a safe place in multiple locations, not just one. So if your computer crashes, you don't lose everything. And for some reason, they lose your information on OneDrive, which happens. You don't lose all that too. So back it up, hard drives, separate drives, thumb drives, and back them up and keep those files. Because, as my husband learned, he had to go back and remind them that he actually does have more PTO than they were giving him. So make sure you keep that information. So hopefully that helps you tremendously with negotiating your salary. And I would love to give you some more fun things as well. So going on right now, I have 30% off of the pre-order for the Elevate Your Career Roadmap, which is a companion guide to my best-selling book, Elevate Your Career for More Impact and Income. And that is available now through March 31st. So that date's coming very quickly. So at the end of the month is coming very fast. And if you'd like to get that companion guide, because if you love the book, you will definitely love the companion guide. And what it does is it takes all the knowledge from the book and helps you apply it to your situation. So it's almost like me walking you through each level of the book, each chapter. I also give a current state career assessment and a whole bunch of other insights and some sneak peeks for my next book, which I'm researching right now, which is Elevate Your Influence. So stay tuned for that. That book will be coming out in, I'm not giving you promises, but working on that. It's a lot more research going into that. And so I highly recommend that you hop over either to my website or check out this link below that's scrolling across the bottom of your screen if you'd like to get that discount. And of course, hop over to my website if you'd like to grab a copy of the Career Pathfinder. So for those of you who are scratching your heads and not quite sure, hey, I haven't reached the negotiation stage, lady, because I don't know what types of jobs I want to apply for in the first place, then grab my Career Pathfinder. That will help you tremendously understand where your zone of genius is and where you can show up most powerfully. As always, it's been a true pleasure. Hopefully you enjoy this information, can apply it immediately and right away during either your job search or negotiating your salary increase. And wherever you are in that journey, I wish you all the best. And until next time, it's ta-ta for now, and make sure you keep elevating your career.